Good evening. We'll start again. I'd like to welcome you to the forum for the candidates for the Kane County Board District 17 in the November 8th election. This forum is hosted by the League of Women Voters of the Elgin area. My name is Shirley Mae Burns, and I will be the moderator tonight. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that works to empower voters and encourage informed participation in our democracy. One of the ways that we do this is to hold candidate forums to provide voters an opportunity to hear the candidates running for election. The forums sponsored by the League give candidates for local offices a chance to present information about themselves and their candidacy, background, skills, education, reasons for running for office, what they hope to accomplish if elected, and positions on various issues relevant to the office. The candidates in 18 contested races were invited to participate in a forum. Each one was given the opportunity to fill out a candidate questionnaire on our website, and the written responses, if any, can be found in the voter guide. The format tonight is a forum, not a debate. Candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for the accuracy of statements made by the candidates. It is the responsibility of the public, news media, and opposing candidates to fact-check statements made by a candidate. The League follows federal guidelines for candidate forums that prohibit holding a forum when only one candidate is willing to participate. When one candidate is unwilling or unable to attend a forum, the forum must be canceled. To be fair to the candidate who was willing to attend, we offer the opportunity to make a 2-minute candidate statement. Before we begin tonight's scheduled forum, you will hear from a candidate whose forum had to be canceled, Cherryl Strathmann, the Democratic candidate for Kane County Board District 20. Her Republican opponent, Lucio Estrada, chose not to participate in a forum. Ms. Strathmann, you may make your statement now.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Cherryl Fritz Strathmann, and I am the Democratic candidate running for the re-election for Kane County Board District 20. Before I tell you a little bit about me, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding these forums that provide the candidates and the voters the opportunity to be face-to-face and for doing all you do to promote our democracy. Thank you. Like many of my Democratic opponents, like many of my Democratic colleagues, my opponent chose not to participate in this forum. He did not participate the last time we ran for this seat. Last week, he chose not to interview at the same time with me for the Daily Herald. I cannot understand passing up an opportunity to meet and talk with the good people of Elgin. I have nothing to hide. I grew up in Elgin, as did my kids. We were all educated in Elgin and started our college educations at ECC. For many years, I was a dental hygienist in town before going back to school to become a nationally certified massage therapist. I was in private practice for 30 years, but like many folks, my business closed because of the pandemic. At that time, I was working in a nursing home, and it became too dangerous for my clients and for me to continue. For the last 2 years, I have enjoyed my time on the board, helping make decisions and set policies that affect the lives of the good citizens of Kane County. I co-chair the Legislative Committee. I sit on the Energy Environmental Committee that worked to get solar panels at the Judicial Center with a projected savings of $5 million. I serve on the Public Health Committee, which worked to keep people safe and set up vaccination centers. I also serve on the Executive Committee, as well as several ad hoc committees, which work to help us through the aftermath of the pandemic. I am asking for your vote because I want to continue to serve my community in this way. I am not afraid to be before you, and I will not be afraid to do the hard work that requires common sense, a working knowledge of our town and county, and the capacity to listen and learn what will best serve the needs of the people of Kane County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Strathmann. And now the candidates for Kane County Board District 17 may be seated as soon as the, yes, names are placed. The candidates have agreed to abide by the ground rules, among them being that no voice, image, or other duplication of the form may be used by any candidate's representative or campaign in any campaign advertising. This evening, you will have a chance to hear from the candidates for Kane County Board District 17, Deborah, Allan, and John Hahn. The format for today's forum will be a 2-minute opening statement, followed by 1-minute responses to questions from the moderator, and ending with 1-minute closing statement. Our timekeeper will show the candidates when they have 1 minute left, 30 seconds left, 15 seconds left, and when their time is up. Questions for the candidates are selected from those submitted by the league and audience members. Audience members are invited to submit written questions on the cards provided. Please raise your hand if you wish to receive a blank index card or to have a question collected. The questions will be collected by league members and presented to the moderator. The league reserves the right to consolidate questions that have a similar content and to eliminate any questions that are inappropriate. If your question is not addressed or you would like a more detailed answer, please feel free to contact the candidates later for a response. After the question and answer period, the candidates will have the opportunity to give a 1-minute closing statement, beginning in reverse order. We ask that you, the audience members, abide by the following rules. Please silence all cell phones and pagers. Please remain silent and seated during the forum. Please do not respond in any audible way to the candidates. This forum will be recorded and posted to the League of Women Voters Elgin Area YouTube channel, and I believe the library channel also, since the library is recording it. No? Okay. The League of Women Voters Elgin Area YouTube channel, where it will be available for viewing via links on our website, lwvelginarea.org, and our Facebook page. It will also be available in the Illinois Voter Guide. Welcome to our candidates, and thank you for agreeing to participate tonight. Ms. Allan, you will begin with your 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you very much. I'm Deborah Allan. I live at 400 East Chicago, which is kitty corner from the old Elgin High School. My husband and I discovered our hometown 37 years ago and found a house that we loved, moved in, and found an active neighborhood. In an old neighborhood, you have wonderful architecture and big old trees, and people tend to walk, and so you get to know your neighbors and their dogs and their kids. But it also comes with challenges, and so the challenges draw the people together into neighborhood associations to try and discuss the challenges. And that has been a very vigorous and very rewarding environment for us. We got interested in city politics. My husband ran for judge. He was an attorney for over 30 years, a second career attorney. And then I got interested in local politics also, and the gentleman who was on the county board was retiring, and so I thought I would give it a try. It's not a good fit for everyone. It's a part-time job, and depending on where you live, it behaves differently. For instance, in Elgin, most of our needs, the stop sign, the pothole, the turkey house down the block are going to be handled by the city government. But there are plenty of districts of the 24 that are out in the boonies, and so they get the calls that a city councilman would get. So it's very different, and the cool thing about the board is that it is 24 of us, each representing about 21,500 people, and we bring that diversity to the board. The other thing I'd like you to know is that the money is always available for you to see. It's online, and it's also vetted by the committee structure that we work under. And we might get a chance to talk about that more as we go on. Thank you for coming.
Thank you
for having us.
Ms. Allen. Mr. Hahn, your 2-minute opening statement, please.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. Thank the League of Women Voters of the Elgin area for hosting this, and thank you, Deborah Allan, for appearing here with me, and pleasure to meet you. My name is John Frederick Hahn. I was born in Chicago and was raised in Western Cook County. However, I lived in Canada for over 30 years. I married a Canadian and studied for my PhD in Canada and worked with the Canadian Meteorological Society and with Teledyne Optic, which is located in Toronto as well. I repatriated to the Chicago area about 6 years ago and have lived in Elgin for all of 2.5 years. So I'm a newbie here, but I love it here. It is a place I have really grown to love. It is a nice place to be. Now, I think the nonpartisan elephant in the room, pardon the expression, is experience. And I can't provide my experience as a public servant to Barbara Allan's for 20 years. But I would say that I have garnered quite a bit of experience at acquiring experience quickly. I have been a applied scientist for not only Meteorological Services Canada, but also now presently employed for the past 6 years with Northrop Grumman in Palatine.
Excuse me, Mr. Hahn, would you pull your microphone closer?
Can you
I'm
hear me?
having trouble hearing you.
Okay, thank you very much.
We don't want to miss anything.
In that sense, I have been forced, as a matter of my profession, to come to understand matters quickly and to make decisions quickly and decisively. I would put that forward as an important aspect of my background. Moreover, I have the unique, I think in this room anyway, experience of being an immigrant, at least in terms of the candidates. So I think that comes to be a matter of consideration as well.
Thank you, Mr. Hahn.
Thank you.
And now it's come to the time of the question and answer portion of the forum, with a reminder that each candidate will have 1 minute to answer, and audience members are encouraged to submit questions. The first question will go to Ms. Allan. Kane County received $103 million in federal American Rescue Plan funds. Some of that money has been earmarked to plug short and long-term budget holes worsened by the pandemic. But a large portion will be used to improve the quality of life in the county. Ideas include better water quality, flood relief, new business and tourism growth, and support for mental health services and addiction treatment. Do you agree with these priorities, or are there other initiatives you would suggest?
There are always wonderful ways to spend money, and it's always tricky, I think, to pick. Mental health was an easy priority because it's so aggravated by the pandemic. One of the things that we experienced was that our forest preserves were used a great deal by people. We kept them open, and people seemed to discover that nature was a way to heal some of those emotional wounds. So it made sense to see what more we could do, and the first $4 million went right out to our 6 largest agencies. The reason that we zeroed in on a bunch of initiatives from the county is that the county serves everyone. our whole goal is to serve you. So if we had initiatives
Thank
that-
you.
Okay.
Mr. Hahn, the same question. Do you need me to repeat it?
I think I have a good grasp of it.
Okay, good.
My first impression with the question, however, is that, okay, $133 million is a lot of money. Where does it come from, and are there conditions attached to it? I would certainly want to know what those conditions are. So if there are any conditions that would jeopardize the well-being or the ability to act at the local level, I would certainly want to know about it up front. That would be the first thing I would study. So far as distributing it, I think that all of the causes that were expressed are worthy ones. I think that the making sure we have clean water in the river, the Fox River is a big asset to this town. We certainly want to make sure that that is properly taken care of, as well as mental health. Mental health is a very serious issue, not only in this town, but in the country, and I think it should be attended to.
Thank you. The second question will go to Mr. Hahn first. Estimated costs to implement the Safety Act for Criminal Justice Reform are some $13 million annually over the next 3 fiscal years. It would require new equipment and more than 100 new employees. The Kane County Board discussed a potential new sales tax referendum to support public safety and additional courtrooms, but ultimately decided to ask for a property tax increase of 3.5% or 5%. If approved, it would add between $7 and $33 million to the average home tax bill, or $33, I'm sorry, $7 and $33 to the average home tax bill. Read what I wrote. What are your thoughts on increasing property taxes? Would you vote to approve the increase, Mr. Hahn?
I would be certainly most concerned with understanding the issue thoroughly. I am given to be reluctant about tax increases, extremely so. I'm conservative that way. However, there are times in which there's no other alternative but to raise taxes. That said, the whole Safety Act thing, which is coming in January 1st, I believe, is problematic in my view, and I would have hoped for more pushback against it. I understand the need to make sure that people have access to their own recognizance if they are indeed shown to be trustworthy in that respect. But the possibility for abuse is there, and I'm concerned about that. So I think my time is up. Sorry. Oh, it isn't?
Not quite.
15 seconds? Okay. I would look at the other alternatives and would want to educate myself on the possible way of carrying this burden without a tax increase to the public. Sorry, I
No,
misinterpreted.
Ms.
Sorry.
Allan, the same question.
Right. This issue is very problematic. It's, no good deed goes unpunished. Our goal here is to make the justice system as fair as possible. Kane County has a pretty stagnant number of employees, and we put our people through a drill. If they want to add someone to their department, they need to come and explain why, with their flow charts and how much work they're doing and so on and so forth. So to add 66 people is a huge thing for us to wrap our arms around. What we've done is the money that's in the budget for those positions will be segregated, and it will only be used when a person is hired and for the pro rata share of the year that person is hired. I'm hoping in the next couple of months that we're going to be able to get a lot more information on what we need to do and when and how many people are actually going to be involved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think I stole a few seconds, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Inflation and a tight labor market have made it difficult to hire and retain county staff. What are your thoughts on increased spending to offer competitive wages and benefits while facing a budget deficit? Ms. Allan?
When I first came on the county board, there was a discussion about how a secretary over in this department was paid one thing and a secretary over here was paid differently. Now, it's good for people to move around the county. It's wonderful for people to have an opportunity to move through the system and get more education and get a better job. But that inequity was problematic. And the explanation was that if we tried to even out, it would cost too much. Well, finally, it's 20 years later, and that initiative is something that we've done. We used a study from McHenry County, and then the state's attorney asked us to pay more attention to what Lake and DuPage were paying people. And over the next 3 years, we're taking $900,000 of our budget to put towards equity. So we will try and get everybody paid what they should be paid, and then we'll go to work on increasing their wages as we need to do it. But that equity was a big deal, and we wanted to get it done, finally.
Mr. Hahn?
Yes, I think paying people equitably across the board is a good way of holding on to talent that you want to hold on to. And I think that on first blush, that would be the approach to adopt. I think, though, that there will also be a need perhaps to revise the scope of the responsibilities at each position to see if there's any way in which the burden can be distributed. We're responsible to the taxpayers here, and we want to make sure that we're getting value per dollar. And I'm sure we have many, many hardworking people in the county and county level. But there may be room for improvement yet. So I think the proper analysis for each position and proper scoping of it would go a long way, as well as making sure we have a proper salary scale for each. That's the way I would approach it, a two-pronged approach.
Thank you. To address the expected $16.3 million deficit for 2023, the board is expected to spend down the county's savings in addition to raising property taxes, which hasn't been done in more than a decade. What are your thoughts on spending down savings to fix a significant budget deficit while reducing rainy day funds for emergencies and long-term projects? Mr. Hahn?
Well, the first question that comes to mind is how often have these funds been accessed in the past? That would be the first indicator of what they're going to be, how they will be used in the future. Of course, we can never predict an emergency exactly, but I think this is the best approach to adopt. Look to the past to predict the future. I would say that we'd want to be circumspect about that. On the other hand, to make what funds do exist go further, that they should be held in a way that provides a better return on investment until such times they can be disposed. That would be something to consider as well. I'm also aware that the county has other assets in terms of real estate, which might be put into the mix for consideration as well, that are not being especially well used or used at all at this point. And I think that would be a matter of consideration to be liquidated to the benefit of the county.
Ms. Allan?
The county has not changed its levy in 10 years. And what that forced everyone in a position to be buying supplies or buying materials or hiring people was they really had to think long and hard about how they were going to spend that money. And that's why we have been very stable, and I think we have we are not overstocked with employees. If people are a good fit, they tend to stay. We have drilled down so that we are running lean, and we had a study done that showed that we are about as lean as we could ever be. We have spent down reserves for a number of years, but what has happened is we budget so conservatively that we've had more revenue come in, thank goodness, And everybody who's in a position to spend money has spent less than their budget.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Many immigrants and refugees are too scared to seek the services and supports for which they are eligible, out of fear of being deemed a public charge and jeopardizing the status and safety of their families here in the U.S. What would you do to ensure that families here in Kane County have access to and feel safe while seeking services such as primary and dental health care from community-based organizations in Elgin? Ms. Allen?
Well, I believe that our policies are already that we are open and we are not intrusive, and we try to welcome everyone for the services that we offer because that's who we are. One of the reasons that the county has been a good fit for me is that it is a generous organization. I point to the fact that Sheriff Hahn has programs to help people who end up in the jail get themselves some extra education or training, like forklift certification, and then get work so that our recidivism is so small. Our health department is always doing outreach, and we welcome everyone. I would say that we are already inclusive and as non-threatening as we can possibly be.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn?
Well, having had the experience of being an immigrant to Canada, I can identify with this, although I had many advantages over some of the folks who come here. Nevertheless, I certainly have a certain amount of empathy for anyone who is in a position where they are wondering whether this government is going to be friendly to me or not. Now, I'd be astounded if and this is my lack of experience showing, I'm afraid, if there wasn't somebody already in the county government as a liaison or ombudsman who would undertake to represent the folks who are coming in and looking for this type of help. And if there isn't such a person, I would try to make it my business to make sure there was such an appointment. The people need needs to be a certain amount of outreach. I'm sure some of our charities in the area also have a mandate to reach out to these folks, and we should make sure we partner with them effectively.
That's good.
Thank you. Have I had you answer the question?
I did.
Yes, thank you.
Though
Moving
Mr. Hahn did very well.
Does the county have sources of revenue other than taxes? If so, what percentage of the county revenue comes from these? And what potential is there to increase these streams of revenue? Mr. Hahn?
Golly, I don't know. So I would have to think about this for a bit. We do have monies, as we already talked about before, and we would have revenue from interest gained upon those monies if they're effectively invested correctly. We also have assets, as we mentioned before, in terms of real estate, and those kind of a one-shot deal, getting rid of capital properties, but that would also be another source of revenue for the county. I don't know if the revenues from the casino count as tax income, but certainly I would expect that we enjoy a certain amount of income from the casino as well. And I don't know whether we're sharing it with the state. I would want to make sure that we increase our share of it, claw back from the state.
Ms. Allen?
That's a great question. I'm remembering that Chairman Lausen had a couple of plans on trying to bring extra money into the county and was slammed down pretty hard for trying. Taxes are actually a relatively small portion, of probably about a third of the money that the county spends, because we get a lot of matching funds for transportation, One of the things that we have to do, though, is that we have to have those as matching funds, so it's important to keep money available in the transportation fund so that when you have a chance to match it, you've got it. And a lot of what our transportation products are we have state money and we have federal money coming in. We get a lot of grants, and we are always looking for more. I'm not sure that buying and selling property is a real good plan, because we use what we have. We use it hard, and we use it extensively.
Thank you. There. Starting with Ms. Allan again.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on racial ethnic equity? If elected, would you advocate for resources for racial and ethnic demographics?
I would like to think that we are doing that every minute of every day in every project and with everyone who comes to the county. I'm going to say that our outreach is in, we have put a lot of money into drug court, into mental health court, into veterans courts, because sometimes people end up in the judicial system for reasons where all they need is the helping hand that will get them back onto a better life track. And it's expensive to do that because you're doing it one person at a time, and that's the most expensive way to do it, but it's also frequently the most successful way. And I don't mean to imply that that's ethnically oriented. It's just that that's an example of how the county reaches out to try and help people who come within our orbit. I think we I think we are equitable. I think we are fair. If there are programs that become available, we will certainly take a look at them. We will try and find ways to fund them. But we live that every day.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn.
Equity is a word that I don't think I understand. Is this the word that means equality of outcome? And if it is, I don't see that as being something that should be guaranteed on the basis of a person's race or sex or religious upbringing. I think it's a matter of who is capable and willing to fill a job or needs help. And that can happen with any person at any particular time. We have to start looking at each other as individuals and not as a member of this group or that group, because that's divisive. We are all citizens of Kane County, and I think that we need to get on the ball with that respect. So I'm all for reaching out to folks, but I am not for my understanding, at least, of what the word equity means. I think we need equality of opportunity.
Thank you. And a less complicated question. Do you believe in term limits, Mr. Hahn?
Yes, I do. I think that there is a need to have a rotation in the responsibility. I wouldn't want to say what those term limits should be, and I don't mean to cast aspersions upon my opponent here or anything. And there are advantages to being in the position for a long time, and there are disadvantages, because I think fresh views are, well, they're necessary. And I think that 2 or 3 terms might be, I'm just throwing that out there, but I wouldn't want to make any particular decisive categorical statement without, first thinking it through and having the benefit of other people's opinions to help me out with this.
Ms. Allan?
It was a surprise to me to be elected the first time. It was a surprise to be elected every time thereafter. It's been such an honor to represent my neighbors. It's just a great pleasure to think that you can do some things that actually help the people around you, make their lives a little easier, a little happier. I'm in my 20th year, and I'm running for another term, and maybe I've overstayed my welcome, but I have learned more every step of the way, and it helps to learn the patterns And it helps to have some experience so that you can put together what you know with what you know, so that you can try and do some things that help people. I'd say that the best judge is the electorate. And when they are ready for, and fresh ideas are absolutely imperative. We need to absolutely do that. But I think when people are done with me, they will let me know.
Thank you. As climate change is becoming more obvious in more extreme weather, even more fires along with more flooding, how important do you feel it is to adapt a climate moderation plan to limit the changes from fossil fuel emissions at the county level?
Am I up?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
good.
sorry.
We have a sustainability program in place for many years. Every couple of years, we update it and pass it again. The sheriff has is looking into electric vehicles, so is the health department, so is development. It's rolling a boulder. You have to tell people that this is going to work and give it a try. We put in our first solar array at animal control because it was a small building, but a 24/7, 365-day-a-year building. And then our second solar array is going to be at the Judicial Center. It's being installed even as we speak, and it will provide electricity for the Judicial Center and the jail, which are good ways to suck up energy. Also, we put energy, and we have engineers with licenses on the walls in our water and energy department, and I'll answer questions afterwards.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn.
How important it is? Was that the question, please?
Yes, do you feel it is to adopt a climate moderation plan to limit the changes from fossil fuel emission at the county level?
Thank you very much.
Sure. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading.
My PhD is in physics. I worked at Meteorological Services Canada, which is the atmospheric service for the Canadian government. I have more than a passing familiarity with some of the issues that we're talking about now with respect to the presence of trace gases, particularly ozone and carbon dioxide. It may interest everyone here to know that the biggest, by far, greenhouse gas is not carbon dioxide. It's actually water vapor. What would we do? And this is something which is known and is not a particularly controversial item, but it shows you that this is a complex matter. What I would do is, again, study and consult the people I'm connected with to make sure that we're doing something that's sensible. I don't think that buying our way out of this at the local level is necessarily the way to do it.
Thank you.
I'll leave it at that.
What is your plan to support small business in your area? Would you consider a business grant? Mr. Hahn?
One of the things that really interests me about Elgin ever since I became aware of the existence back when I was a kid was the existence of the Elgin clock or watch factory, and I just wondered, where did all that industry go? And I think it's very important to get industry back in this town. I think a lot of our future could be secured by having industry with good paying jobs for folks in this area. So a judicious use of grants to get companies to locate here, to develop, to get bright ideas looked at in a concerted way that we can act upon is an appropriate use of funds. So count me in for that, yes.
We put a lot of the CARES Act money into small business around the county. We asked people to let us know how they were impacted. if they needed help covering rent, covering electricity, covering their employees while they were trying to survive the pandemic. So I think that the CARES Act addressed that a good bit. We do have some money still left under the ARPA, and small business grants is a possibility. Also, there's some interest in affordable housing. So we have $10–12 million that we'll want to try and think through what the best way is to spend that. Now, another thing that's happening is Kane County has not had an economic development person for a very long time. What we have had is a committee to try and work with the economic development entities in our communities so that we can be helpful. For instance, there were grants for people who wanted to spend money overseas, and we doubled it. We can talk afterwards.
How does Kane County compare in structure and budgets to neighboring counties? Are we equal or lower?
Wow, what an interesting question. You know, if I had a few more hours in the day, I think that would be worth finding out how other entities do it. For us, as soon as we finish a budget, we start on the next one, and there are always wrinkles. We've done it in years where we've just tried to, you know, whatever you had last year is what you're going to live with next year. And then had a contingency fund for the things that go awry. I think that this is something that we're just going to be working on always. The deficit that exists this year, can we survive it by virtue of underspending and getting extra revenue that we didn't expect? Or do we start cutting jobs? So that's something that we certainly don't want to do. And we will probably just keep pressing forward a step at a time, an employee at a time, a department at a time, to try and manage our money as well as we have.
Thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Hahn?
Well, a comparison with other counties is all well and good, but again, my experience or lack thereof showing is my first task would be to understand what our structure is here in Kane County and then do the comparison. So I can't speak with any amount of credibility to this issue. I would just say my task would be to be able to answer this question in pretty short order. I don't need any more time on that.
Okay.
Everyone needs more time on that.
Well, let's try this one. Does the county distribute and use their funds equally to all cultures? Are there enough multilingual staff members in all areas? Mr. Hahn?
Well, I suppose you'd have to ask the communities. I think that reaching out to those communities and asking, putting the question to them would provide us with the answer that we would need to respond. All community members are part of the community. There's a little bit of a redundancy there, but as part of the community, their input is important. Their lives are important. So that's the way that we ought to approach it, is to reach out to them and ask, are your needs being met?
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
We have bilingual people scattered all over the county and usually in response to need. For instance, in the judicial system, in the state's attorney's office, in the sheriff's office, in the court system, we have bilingual people scattered throughout the various departments. In the health department, for sure, because we're doing outreach to many citizens. I am not sure if we have, you know, someone who speaks German or someone who speaks an African language or Russian. We hire interpreters in the courts until such time as it was important to hire people who were bilingual, because it's a savings factor to not have to hire multilingual people. I would expect, I'm hoping that people who come to us who don't feel like they can communicate with us will tell us. I am not aware of that. So it's a little bit of a wonderment, but if someone knows about that, I hope they'll speak to us.
Thank you. Do you have a new approach to curbing the opioid crisis in Kane County? Explain.
Wow, a new approach. Well, we're going to be getting some money from the opioid settlements, and we're planning on funneling that to some to our health department, of course, and some into the sheriff's office. Who there's training to help people who are found suffering from the addiction. But mostly, we're planning on working with our agencies throughout Kane County to help give them the help that they need, the resources that they need. This is a case of spreading unexpected manna from heaven as far and wide as we can to help the people who need to be helped.
Mr. Hahn?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a problem with throwing money at these issues without really understanding what the effect down the road will be. I want to make sure, if monies are available, again, that they are used appropriately. Do we understand the problem sufficiently? Do we understand the sources of the opioids? Do we understand the users and what compels a user to become a user? Do we understand anything about how to detoxify the people that are afflicted with this particular use? And I know that a considerable amount of work has been done on this. It's all over the place, but I think that what we want to find is the right pinch point to stop this problem. I think that there are things that we can do at the county level. I'm not sure that, and that's what we're talking about, the county level, but we may have to reach out to other agencies and other levels of government to make sure that those choke points are actually being applied to eliminate this scourge, essentially.
Thank you. There has been some discussion of whether mental health facilities and services are best handled by community 708 boards or by the county. What are your views on the best way to provide mental health services to the community? Mr. Hahn?
I'm not too clear about 708 boards. I think they're boards that are convened by local communities, and this is sort of it seems to me kind of a piecemeal approach, like we're okay over here and you guys can do whatever you are doing over there. It might be sensible to look at a county-wide approach to mental health. I think that different areas of the county have different needs so far as mental health is concerned, and maybe that was the genesis for the 708 boards in the first place. But maybe a hybrid between a county-wide and a 708 board approach would be possible. Again, I'm sort of coming at this fresh, so I am trying to approach this and maybe give an indication of the methodology that I would adopt in looking at this problem. Again, it's not an easy problem.
Thank you. Ms. Allan?
What would be helpful, I think, would be to talk to the person who asked that question, because I would be very interested in knowing what experience would help direct our thoughts. The southern half of the county has had 708 boards for a long time. The northern half is not until just recently. And then there was a big court fight about whether or not the referendum was handled properly so that we could get the 708 board up and running. The county did a study under our health administrator, Barb Jeffers, that came up with the idea that a county-directed program would be a good idea, in that you wouldn't have to worry about whether you were just outside of the township or just outside of this area that the 708 board covered. But it was always intended, when thinking that through, that the county would use the 708 people who had experience in order to do a good job of getting it set up.
Thank you. The Kane County Board voted in January to keep a 50% across-the-board discount and development impact fees in place. The discounts were originally implemented to encourage commercial and industrial development during the recession. Do you believe that impact fees should continue to be discounted, or that they should be restored to the original fees as development activity increases and county revenues are down? Ms. Allan?
Actually, I have a slightly different take on that. We put the impact fees in place because development was running rampant. And we just figured that if a lot of people are saying, wow, I sure want to live in Kane County, then we would like some help fixing the roads, expanding traffic lanes, making intersections work better. And that's why we did the impact fees. And then, of course, when that development all slowed down, it made sense to discount them because it wasn't having the same impact, so we wouldn't need the same impact fees. And I would tend to follow that. If business picks up, if home building picks up, then that would be a good time to take another look at the impact fee structure and maybe get it back in place. As it is, we have a program to fix our roads and our bridges, and that's what we live with.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn?
Yes, my understanding of the impact fee is it's a way of regulating and controlling the growth to a sustainable rate that we'd want in the county. And increasing it precipitously or decreasing it conversely would be a destabilizing, would have, in my view, a destabilizing effect upon development. And I think that what we'd want to do is change it gradually, if at all. And again, basically, I agree with Ms. Allan that we'd want to be careful and judicious about this.
Thank you. Kane County board members also serve as Forest Preserve District Commissioners, which sometimes poses a conflict of interest. The Kane County Board is charged with promoting economic development, while the Forest Preserve District's mission is to protect and preserve natural areas from development. How do you balance the two for the good of our residents? Mr. Hahn?
Well, that's a tricky question, isn't it? How do you square that circle? We want green spaces. We need them for basic sanity, really. People need to have a place to go and to enjoy. And I know we enjoy many fine bike trails in this county. We enjoy many green spaces. And getting back to development, we have a lot of farmland here too. I'd like to see all that conserved and not meddled with any more than it need be. Now the question is, what does any more than it need be mean? And that's where the devil is in the detail. If there is a consensus in the board on what our priorities are, I don't think there's a possibility, or there's a much reduced possibility of conflict of interest when it comes to the preservation of our forest preserves and so forth. If we know what the rules are, we abide by the rules. And I guess that's a stop.
Thank you. Ms. Allan?
This is a fun one. The Forest Preserve does not take property by eminent domain. That language shows up in resolutions, but only because it can be a benefit to the seller to have eminent domain in the language. It gives them extra time to place their proceeds into another property. But the Forest Preserve does not take property. We only buy from willing sellers. And I remember a city manager of Elgin complaining to me that we had bought the Muirhead property, and Elgin was thinking it wanted to send its sewer and water lines out there, and how dare we set up a situation where the city now had to go around the Forest Preserve. And I said, boy, if I could see that far in the future, I would certainly be in the stock market. We will always, we can go up to 50,000 acres. We're at about 23,000 now. in the Forest Preserve. And it's a joy to be on both of those, oh, rats. It's a joy to be on both of those boards because there's such pleasure.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. The Long Meadow Parkway and Bridge Project, which bisects the Brunner Forest Preserve, is now scheduled to open in 2023. The $135 million project included the sale of $28 million in bonds to finance a toll collection system. County officials later successfully pushed for additional state funding to reduce or possibly eliminate tolls in the future. But the Parkway will open as a 5.6-mile toll road. In your opinion, how well has Kane County handled the planning and implementation of this project? Ms. Allen.
Because the Parkway was so close to McHenry County, it made sense, I think, to a lot of us to have, if you're going to build the thing, to have a tollway so that everybody would get to help pay for it. Now, there is nothing wrong with getting state funding. There was lots of pushback about how the other bridges in the county aren't toll bridges. Why should this one be? And so having it not be a tollway is just fine. And of course, it was sunsetted that when the bonds were paid off, it would stop being a toll bridge. The reason the board resisted the Long Meadow Parkway project for quite a long time until the people in that area started to ask for it. They would send us pictures of the lines that they were waiting in to get across the river, and that's what moved us forward to do that project.
Thank you. Mr. Hahn?
I can only comment on what I heard here today. The direct taxation through the form of tolls, I think, is a way that's been used in the past to get to amortize the expense of many projects, and I think that being used here sounds sensible to me offhand. And the fact that it's sunsetted after the completion of the amortization also makes sense to me. So I don't know how could have been handled any different since I wasn't privy to the discussions that went into it. Offhand, I have no objections to anything I've heard here. It sounds sensible to me.
Thank you. How should Elgin Riverboat casino funds be used by the county? Should they be used for county operations or for county capital projects only? Mr. Hahn?
Well, I'm not certain how much of the revenues we collect from Kane County. Is it like 5% or thereabouts, rough order of magnitude? And my question is, where do the rest of the revenues go? What portion does the state get, and why? Now, the state is probably going to have a say in this since they issued the license, but I'm wondering why, whether or not there's any sort of possibility of negotiating with the state for an increase in our take of those revenues. I think that capital costs in keeping the county modernized and competitive in terms of its roads and in terms of its quality of life is very important, and I'd like to see the monies go towards that.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
The riverboat was so interested in making a fortune from gamblers that it was willing to give Elgin some money, it was willing to give the Forest Preserve some money, and it was willing to give Kane County some money. It's a percentage. When the boat first opened, the county received $12 million, and we spread that far and wide. 2 years ago, it was down to about $3 million. We try and put at least $1 million of it back into the community. And the guidelines are this, the 3 E's: environment, education, economic development. And I believe most strongly that that's exactly where that money should be spent. Because there was a tiny little tidbit in the contract that said, well, there are going to be some people who get addicted to gambling, so we need to be able to do some programs for gamblers. The state's attorney leapt on that with 6 feet And so an awful lot of the money from the riverboat has been used to fund state's attorney operations. And we need to get ourselves off of that. If a program is important, it should be funded by the county. If it's
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Thank you for answering our questions. We'll now hear your 1-minute closing statements, beginning with Mr. Hahn.
Well, thank you for listening to our forum here. Thank you very much, Ms. Allen, to the League of Women Voters. My fiscal philosophy is basically based upon where do the funds come from, both the ones that we receive and where do they go. Because my government or political philosophy is that local government is the best. And it's the best because it is the most closely associated with the people who live here, and we have to be agile to serve their needs. We don't want any undue strictures on what we're doing here. We want to act in a sensible way, and we don't want to be obliged to follow something that somebody else elsewhere thinks is a good idea. Not to say that has ever happened, but that would be a concern that I would have. And I would like to see us to develop this community to stay as independent as possible, because I think that's the way that a democratic republic should work, oddly enough.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
The legislation that we pass is for unincorporated Kane County. The municipalities have complete control over what they do, and we have unincorporated Kane County. But the fact is that working in a vacuum never is as successful as when we build partnerships. And I am delighted that the county has a generous spirit and lots of outreach, and our staff and our electeds truly are trying to build partnerships with the entire county and sometimes outside of the county. Think of Ride in Kane for people who are disabled. Think of Adopt a Highway. A family's willing to pick up the litter, so is the Rotary Club. Farmland Protection is a 50-50 split with the feds. Everybody here can volunteer in the Forest Preserve. It's the partnerships that make us all successful and make government work, especially from the grassroots up.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Thank you both for participating in this candidate forum and giving the voters a chance to hear your views. For more information on these and other candidates, check the voter guide on our website, http://lwvelginarea.org, and the League of Women Voters Illinois Voter Guide. This concludes tonight's candidate forum. I want to thank the candidates, the League members who worked to provide this forum, and the voters who take the time to watch these forums and learn about the candidates in order to make an informed choice. We hope that each and every one of you will vote and encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to do the same. If you applied to vote by mail, ballots are being mailed out now. Voting early in person at permanent polling places begins on October 24th, and voting on election day at your regular polling place will be on November 8th. If you plan to vote early, please note that different sites are open different hours, and there may be changes from previous years. You can check our information table by the door or the Kane County Elections website for current information. We hope that the candidate forum, presented as a public service by the League of Women Voters, has been helpful. Additional forums recorded by the League that will be available are on October 4th, Illinois Representative, District 43, at the Gail Borden Library. The candidates are Anna Moeller and Angela Haylock Novak. The forums, which had been scheduled for next week, have been canceled due to the withdrawal of 2 candidates who had agreed earlier to participate. October 11th, the Illinois Representative District 66 at the Rack House Center in Carpentersville. Republican Connie King withdrew from the forum with Democrat Suzanne Ness. October 13th, Kane County Sheriff at the Rack House Center in Carpentersville. Republican Jeff Bowden withdrew from the forum with Democrat Ron Hahn. In addition to the candidates' forums hosted by the League of Women Voters Elgin area, recordings of the following forums hosted by other local leads will be available on our website. Again, https://lwvelginarea.org under voter guide for the 2022 general election. Illinois Appellate Court 2nd District recorded on September 18th by the League of Women Voters Central Kane County. Kane County Treasurer recorded on September 27th by the League of Women Voters Central Kane County. Congressional representative for the 8th District to be recorded on October 20th by the League of Women Voters Palatine area. We regret to inform you that no forums will be held here for the following races due to insufficient candidate participation. The Illinois Supreme Court, 2nd District, the 11th Congressional District, Illinois, Senate District 25, Illinois Representative District 65 and 66, the Kane County Clerk, Kane County Treasurer, Kane County Sheriff, Kane County Board District 16, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. This concludes tonight's forum. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.